At the beginning of this semester, we spent weeks of class time debating the topic of this final project. We had several different ideas. We'd spent time voting and delegating on what we may or may not want to do each individually. We discussed the ways to present the project or how we can incorporate different aspects in the studio. And in light of COVID-19, our topic was chosen for us. And we're also now faced with severe limitations on how we would present this final project as a class that's now spread across the state of Oklahoma. So in light of that, we're trying to give you an insight into the day-to-day life, a time capsule of sorts of what it is like to live quarantined, to report remotely, and how people are living day-to-day in light of coronavirus.
So the physical and mental health of people can vary wildly depending on a variety of things. Some of our classmates actually have decided to approach these topics and tell their unique stories.
Hi, my name is Sarah Height. I'm a senior at the University of Central Oklahoma. I'm currently a part of the Video News 2 class. I'm currently sitting in the corner of my bedroom with 4 milk crates holding up 2 laptops. I like being in producer capacities or behind the scene capacity. I'll write what our anchors will say. I've worked in the capacity of shooting stories and presenting them that way, presenting them in a print way, and presenting them on social media. I actually run UCentral social media currently, all of which is behind the scenes, and you don't really have to be in front of the camera. You'll get to see everybody's story and what they're covering and how they have approached covering this story with limited resources. My perspective is an in-depth look at living through the COVID pandemic pregnant. I am actually currently, if you see, 9 months pregnant, and we're due in about 2 weeks. Across the world, expectant parents, including myself, are asking the same questions, and experts have limited resources to fully answer them. Currently, only a small number of studies reporting on a limited number of cases are available to answer many questions, including this one. If I become sick, what is the risk of passing the virus onto my fetus or newborn? Most of the women in these case reports had COVID-19 during the 3rd trimester of pregnancy. According to Harvard Health Publishing, the risk of passing the infection to a fetus appears to be very low. Currently, there is no evidence of any fetal malformations or effects due to maternal infection with COVID-19. Ran into a few problems and just the beginning stages of this. I did not remember to start recording as I was going into my appointment, my last appointment. So the video I shot is actually this jumbled mess because I wasn't thinking clearly, and I was more worried about, I'm in a hospital in the middle of a pandemic. I want in and out. Don't touch anything. I'm trying to document it, not just for this story's sake, but for me to look back on as this is what it was like then, because all of this goes by so fast, and especially with all of the anxiety of doing it during a pandemic and making sure it's safe. And the idea that the hashtag labor in the time of corona is a trending thing right now on Instagram. It's nice to have this camaraderie and community. You don't feel so alone. So it's certainly not as isolating as sometimes it does feel. Certain things aren't as different as they would be. I'm still taking bump pics. It's still a fun process, and it's still exciting and enjoyable. Norman, this is Sarah Height, UCentral News.
The first thing that really affected and probably had the biggest effect on my mental health was the change in my schedule. I was very on the go. I had a planner for school. I had a calendar for work, which actually my calendar for work still says March. I haven't been able to bring myself to erase it because once I found out that both of my jobs, which were non-essential retail businesses, were going to be closed until further notice, I couldn't bring myself to erase my calendar and look at a blank calendar, because what does that mean? That was only going to make me more anxious. So I decided to keep my calendar on March, even though it is now outdated. So, what do we do when we feel anxious or we feel nervous or scared or fearful? How can we feel more connected whenever we feel so disconnected and our routine feels so disrupted?
I would also say definitely try to socialize though as much as you can. So if that looks like creating spaces for you to meet with your friends virtually or through the telephone, do that. Or if that's meeting with your family virtually or through the telephone, do that. Trying to get outside as much as possible when we do have the sun out. That vitamin D can be really important sometimes. Not only is it good for our skin, but it's good for our mental health too. And so just being outside to get a breath of fresh air, and get away from being in front of your computer screen for long periods of time can be helpful as well.
So, some things that I've taken up during this quarantine period has been puzzle making. I've been exercising with my roommate. It's really nice to have an accountability partner with that. Whenever I do feel like I need to get out of the house, I will drive up to the lake. Luckily, it's just a short drive for me. It's really nice to go out there and just get some fresh air too. But sometimes that's not enough. And so we have to look at other resources that are available to us that we can use to make us feel better.
Definitely, if you're a college student at university, every university typically has some sort of counseling center. And so I look at what counseling services your counseling center offers. There are some universities where you do have to pay a copayment or a payment of some sort, and there are some universities where you don't have to have a payment. So definitely I would start out with looking at what you have right there in your backyard in terms of your university.
Like she said, UCO students are able to use resources like the Center for Counseling and Wellbeing that is meeting with students virtually right now. So you're able to call or email to set up an appointment with the center. There's nothing wrong with talking to someone. I've spoken to someone about how I felt. I've been prescribed because of how I felt sometimes. And it's most important that we are healthy. And so I hope that we can all stay physically and mentally healthy during this time. In Oklahoma City, Courtney Hall, U-Central News.
Baby. Here, look at this. What is wrong with me? Hey guys, my name is Alex Fisher. I am a senior here at UCO. I've been also helping out with the newscast up at U-Central News. So, associate producer rep, I guess. It's a little weird talking to the camera. Honestly, it's kind of weird. I feel kind of like a YouTuber almost, but like I don't know how to gauge anyone's reaction by just staring at a camera lens. This is actually coming from a DSLR. This is on a tripod. I try to make it as professional as I can. I don't really like using my phone too much as a camera if I've got something a little bit better to use. Doesn't help though, audio wise, if I don't have a mic for it. So sorry for the crummy quality. That's my bad. I guess I should have bought a shotgun mic before all of this. But who would have thought, like, all this during spring break, that like it was gonna get this big? I would have never thought of it like that. So I guess it would help if I actually hit record. Oh yeah, so on the topic of N95 masks, I know it's been kind of like a meme for some people to be like walking around in public with like water jugs on their head. So this one dude's kind of going all out with like Gatorade bottle. It's kind of like as a mask filter, and that's kind of interesting. So yeah, I just haven't been able to find any updates that I can use. So But I think that's kind of more of like an interesting topic, though. It's just like how people are kind of making their own masks and like to kind of stay safe and stay protected. So I actually went and made sure to talk to somebody who's pretty close to my family about that and who's actually doing that thing. So, how many masks do you think you made before you kind of realized, yeah, I can start doing this? Like
my husband, myself, and I even made my toddler one, and then my parents. So probably 10 to 15 for family wise. And then as like friends and family started like, hey, I'll pay you some money. Can you make my family one? I've probably made around 500 so far.
what do you usually make them out of?
So I actually have one right here. So I just had some like regular material and cotton material, and then on the inside is batting, like quilting batting. Mm-hmm. And then we had several different things to use for ties. So elastic is obviously a shortage. So some of them are made with straight up ribbon. Some of them are made for tape, and then some we do have with elastic.
Is there anything that you might want to like reach out towards, like on Facebook, where people can find you to see if maybe they want to purchase a mask from you?
I kind of switched gears. So a lot of the masks that I made, I tried to make enough money. For every about 100 I made, I donated 20. So, like once I hit 100 mark, I donated 20 to our local seniors living center. And then I just have a friend who her son-in-law works up at OU Medical Center and was like, hey, they need some masks. So I busted out about 20 for them. So I'm more trying to do charitable type things and donating to the hospital field and stuff like that, the medical field and hospitals and stuff like that, because I think that there's going to be a really big need, especially in case of a resurgence or something like that.
Why I just cut it off right there is because my goodbye with her was really cringy and I didn't want to show that. So my final for it was really cringy and I didn't want to show me just saying goodbye in a really weird manner. So that's kind of how I'm going to end this now. I currently lived in Stillwater for a little bit while during the school semester, but now since the coronavirus has kind of affected my living, I'm now back here in Mustang with my parents. So that's currently where I reside. Regardless, I'm a commuter student going to UCO. Yeah, I don't know really where to fit all of that information into this video. It may even be at the end, I'm not too sure. But yeah, hopefully that's kind of gives you a little bit more insight about me. Reporting from my bedroom in Mustang, Oklahoma, Alex Fisher, U Central News.
In the midst of these uncertain times, many of us find ourselves back at home. I'm from a small town right off Interstate 40 called Okemah, where remarkably only one case of COVID-19 has been confirmed. I stopped by the Muskogee Creek Nation Community Hospital, where I got to be on the front lines and chat with hospital staff on how they're maintaining this. I went through a required screening after entering the hospital and walked through the silent halls. Their emergency room was completely empty, as opposed to the busy facilities of the metro. Despite the stark contrast in pace, this hospital, like many in rural Oklahoma, is prepared for the virus. I spoke with Jim Schmidlkofer, a registered nurse of 20-plus years, on how COVID has affected their hospital. He also happens to be my dad.
It's really kind of slowed things down, and we're used to our normal routine, and so this is like a whole new ball game, I guess you would say, or it's a complete different set of circumstances. Basic things that they say about social distancing and staying at home, especially if you're in the vulnerable population, to protect yourself and all. Hand washing, the wearing a mask, all these things that they talked about. They're similar to the measures that we take, but of course we have higher levels of protection than the general public does and all, but those are all very basic things, and a lot of those measures are tried and true. They've worked for ages and ages. Covering your hands, covering your cough, and all the things that they sort of seem common sense and all, but they really have a significant impact on decreasing people's exposure to any sort of illness like this.
Let's continue to come together, because this too shall pass. Thank you to all healthcare professionals for your diligent and heroic work. In Okemah, I'm Bailey Schmidelkofer, U Central News.
From grade school to the seniors in college, students across the world are now trying to learn solely online. And from a lack of motivation to simply just missing the routine of day-to-day classes, the age difference, the language, or your location, it makes no difference when facing the same problems.
Since COVID-19 is now in serious condition in the United States, international students face different difficulties and concerns.
My mother is worried about me. She often calls me and hopes that I can book a flight to home as soon as possible.
But many international flights have been cancelled because of the current global outbreak.
I have booked a flight in March, but that flight was cancelled, and then I changed my flight twice, and I supposed to be home in May 2nd, but I received a notice that flight was cancelled again.
In addition to the difficulty of booking a flight home, some students have a problem that their visas or passport got expired.
My passport and visa is both expired in this semester, so I made an appointment to reapply my visa in July. But my flight ticket has been cancelled over and over again, so I don't know whether I can go home or not.
Now the flight has been cut back so much. The price of tickets have become very high. Some international students plan to stay in the United States, taking online classes and abiding by government rules to stay at home. In Edmond, Xun Hongzhou, U Central News.
My story is about dealing with online classes at the university while being unemployed. When the pandemic was just beginning, I thought I would have more time to focus on school, but it's been very difficult to balance my free time and schoolwork. The lack of in-person classes makes it hard to hold myself accountable in class. School feels optional compared to everything else going on. Some classes, like philosophy, seem impossible to complete without in-person lectures. Professors and students can do the best they can, but there will always be a missing element without the physical classroom. On Sundays, I wake up to file for unemployment if the website hasn't crashed. And with Oklahoma lifting restrictions, I'm probably going to return to work sometime in mid-May, which kind of scares me. Due to the CARES Act, I now make twice on unemployment than what I did while employed. But before the CARES Act, I only made half of what I did while employed. Most of my time has been spent wondering if I'm going to owe this money back and which bills I should pay with it. All of these things boil down to my daily life. In a classroom, I can follow along to a lecture, but in my living room, I'm automatically way more distracted. Like I mentioned before, I usually would never show myself on video, but now due to the inability to go out and find video to shoot, I have become the video. Minus moving, I've been stuck in my apartment most days. Student journalists that were once going out to find the news have now become the news. And it constantly feels like everything's happening at once. And in Edmond, Dylan Steeper, U Central News.
COVID-19 has touched every aspect of life, from day-to-day living to how we worship or make a living, and even how we celebrate the most memorable days of our lives. Even as some businesses begin to reopen, people are still adapting to the new norm.
College students are facing some of the highest unemployment rates. I conducted an unscientific survey of about 70 of my peers at UCO and found that more than 60% of them lost work due to the coronavirus. I filed for unemployment on March 15th. I was approved, but after 1 week, something went wrong. Like thousands of other Oklahomans, I've spent weeks trying to speak to someone at the Oklahoma Unemployment Security Commission.
Please hold for the next available claims representative.
I'm going to open a ticket for them to the level 2 because I'm not able to access your claim, and they can help you from there.
Do you have any idea how long it usually takes for them to call?
No, normally we would have an idea, but because of the call volume, we're not able to know. I'm prioritized this ticket, so it's gonna be on the top of the queue.
Okay.
So you should get a call.
They say they'll call back, but they don't.
Senior Sylvia Gonzalez got laid off from her job at UCO, and she's also been waiting over a month for her unemployment benefits.
Being independent with no source of income now. So it's just going off of my savings.
Even though she's had issues with unemployment, she said she would still recommend students file.
The process might be long and you might or might not get it, but there's a 50% chance you will. And if you don't do it, it's a 100% chance you won't get anything.
But many students aren't filing. Even though 60% of students told me they've lost work, only 24% said they filed for unemployment. Some students have other options, like senior Blade Pfeiffer, who moved back in with his parents.
And if it was a situation where I wasn't going to be able to pay for rent or wasn't going to be able to get out of my lease, I would have done it.
But for some students, the system is working. Sophomore Dylan Stieber is getting an extra $600 a week thanks to the federal stimulus package.
I still think it's a little crappy that some of us are making twice while other people still aren't getting anything.
If you haven't received the call back by Friday, give us a call back Monday, and we will escalate this to the next level, okay?
Okay.
Your call is important to us. All agents are currently assisting other customers. We appreciate your patience.
How can I help you?
So I have been trying to speak to someone for almost a month now about my claim.
Unfortunately, I'm not a level 2 representative.
You're not sure how long it will take for them to contact me?
Unfortunately, I don't. All I know is that they're working their hardest to help everybody out.
David Harrison manages a program at UCO that helps low-income and first-generation students.
It's leaving students in this really precarious situation where there is no safety net for them.
As of right now, no one's called, and $40 is all I've gotten from unemployment. Reporting from Oklahoma City, Lenora LaVictoire, U Central News.
According to the CDC and all the government, pretty much my entire family is at risk due to COVID-19. That's made it somewhat of a challenge dealing with supporting my grandparents, who are in their mid to late 80s. While I have asthma, my folks have asthma, what we've been doing has been fairly minimal compared to what we usually do. And helping my grandparents out has been somewhat different. Not a huge amount compared to what we normally would do. The big thing is that we're going grocery shopping. We'll stop at Food Pyramid, Homeland, they just recently bought it, Sprouts, Walmart, and they have all their social distancing things set up there. One of the other issues is that my aunt is doing a lot of stuff to try and keep them isolated, more so than probably is necessary. One of the rules is that we're not allowed in the house. We're only allowed to be on the porch. It's further than 6 feet. It's closer to 10 feet away that we have to stay. And when we're out visiting, we have to be downwind from them. Unfortunately, this has made it very difficult to get any interview or talking with them of any quality, because it's Oklahoma, you're outside, you're in a rural area, so the wind is fierce. One of the big topics of discussion when I'm out visiting is my sister, who is immunocompromised. And I am at the end of this run of errands. There's not much I'm going to be able to show y'all except about 2 miles of fence line and a quarter section of rolling prairie. But summarize, I mean, I'm helping out my family. My family's doing the best that we can do to help each other at the moment. We're taking precautions. We're all concerned about each other. And we're going to keep on keeping on. See how things go. So, with that, this has been David Swank near Stillwater for UCO News. And I've got to go open a gate.
Jesus' love has never failed me yet. This one thing I know, where'er I may go, that Jesus' love has never failed me yet.
Life Tabernacle Pastor Lewis Poole wasn't sure what to do when COVID-19 forced him to shut the doors on his church.
And that's where I step in. My grandfather Lewis asked for some help making videos for his church and exactly how he should get those videos out to the members of his church.
From there, we recorded videos of him at church giving his lessons and made the church a YouTube page.
Our people like them. They were staying after me because so many other churches were putting on some lessons and things, trying to keep in touch with one another. So our people love them. And they send them to all their friends, which that's a great blessing too.
With social distancing restrictions in mind, we had to find a way for him to share his videos with me. That's when he learned how to use Google Drive.
All right, so now we're about to upload the video that he's recorded. So yeah, just go over there and click on New.
Okay, get the new one. Okay.
And then File Upload.
Okay.
And then now we'll go to our file in...
One from this morning. I think it's this one here, Preston.
Okay.
At 8:17, so just...
Yeah, just click on it and upload it. I'll hit open.
Open it, okay.
Awesome, now it's uploading and should be on there.
Pews like these in the church haven't been filled for over a month now. And now that the government is opening things back up, Life Tabernacle is able to have service again, but with some restrictions.
We're advising our older members to maybe wait another week or two before they come in. And we're just taking it slow and easy. Wear a mask. We're probably not going to shake hands and hug or anything like that, but we're just advising anybody that feels concerned about coming, maybe for their health's sake, just to go ahead and not worry about it. Come when they feel comfortable, and that's about all we can do.
Life Tabernacle is prepared for the resumption of services. Scattered throughout the church are bottles of hand sanitizer and gloves. And of course, masks are encouraged to be worn. After COVID-19 is gone, this quiet little church will still be here. Pews filled during services just as usual. But until then, online videos and restrictions in church will be there. And for the videos, well, they might stick around. Reporting in more, Preston Poole, UCentral News.
The beginning of May marks the reopening of many Oklahoma businesses after the coronavirus social distancing guidelines. Governor Kevin Stitt announced the plans to reopen the state in phases, completely reopening by June 1st. Some businesses can open as soon as April 24th. These guidelines allow restaurants to open as early as May 1st. Restaurants like S&B Burger Joint. I stopped by their Edmond location to see how they're preparing for the reopen. S&B employee Emily Hutz shared the restaurant's plans.
We decided to open May 4th because we needed a little bit more time to prepare. All of the employees that work at S&B have to wear gloves and a mask during their shift. We're setting every other table. We're cutting our capacity in half. We have to sanitize everything.
Despite government okay, many people, as well as experts, think it's too soon to start reopening.
I think it is maybe a little too soon to reopen because the number of people with the coronavirus, the number of cases, is still very high. And in the restaurant industry, you have a lot of contact with different people that come in, and I think that's one of the easier ways to spread the virus is in the restaurant industry.
Non-essential travel, organized sporting events, and bars are to remain closed until May 15th. Social distancing and sanitization efforts are encouraged through the end of the outbreak. In Edmond, Courtney Stambro, U Central News.